You're watching Public Affairs. Berkowitz is my name and politics is our game. And we will be doing lots of politics this evening because we have as our guest Patrick Hughes, who's running in the U.S. Senate. That is, he's running for the U.S. Senate nomination in the Republican primary. And that primary notably has the incumbent Congressman Mark Kirk, who's the 9-year incumbent from the North Shore. And it has, count them, is it 5 other candidates in the Republican primary with you, right?
Yeah, there are some additional candidates in addition to Mark and myself. I view it as a competition between Mark and I for the primary February 2nd.
You think it comes down to you? Because in that primary there's also John Arrington, Kathleen Thomas, Don Lowry, and the notable Andy Martin.
He's notable, that's for sure.
So 5 others, but you think it comes down to you and Kirk?
I do. I think we're the 2 viable. Obviously, Congressman Kirk is a viable candidate. He's got lots of money, his name recognition, and I'm building those things as we speak right now. So the other candidates are good people other than Andy Martin. I won't say that about him, but the other candidates...
You won't say he's a good person?
I won't. I certainly
We'll talk
won't.
more about Andy as
I
we
bet
get
we
into
will.
the show.
Yeah, no, and I think that it's fair to say that it's between Mark and I.
Now, I mean, is that in part because of the financial power you bring? Because in that first quarter, we don't know the results yet for the second quarter, really, since at least the first quarter of the race, the fall quarter, right? You reported $400,000
around $400,000,
but $260,000 came from yourself.
$250,000 was a loan that I made to the campaign,
and $150,000 you raised.
$150,000 we had raised in the first.
And the other folks have raised what, collectively $15,000 together.
If that,
yeah.
And in a statewide race, that's not enough. And quite frankly,
but Kirk, what did he have a cash on hand at the end of that? Like $2 million or something?
I think it was over $2 million.
Yeah.
But it's not just the money. I mean, it's grassroots throughout the state. I have 18 regional coordinators. I have Tea Party activists that back me. I have township endorsements, including endorsements in Congressman Kirk's own district. There's a whole grassroots swell behind the candidacy, so it's a combination of 3 things. Money to go on TV, which we did this week, and to do radio ads.
And by this week, depending on what people are watching it, we're taping on January 10th, the year 2010. Some of you folks may be seeing it on YouTube within a few days. Others in Rockford and Chicago, Aurora, Chicago metro suburbs, a little later, certainly before the election of February 2nd.
Sure.
So you went on, so people will know, you're saying you went up on TV the first time the week of January 3rd.
Yeah, statewide TV on Fox News across the state many times a day. And the ad's great ad, produced by Tony Marsh. And what the ad basically says is there's a difference between Congressman Kirk and I, particularly on economic issues, cap and trade, bank bailouts, incredible spending that he's participated in over the last 10 years. And I refer to him, and I think it's a fair comparison, Jeff, to be honest with you, as Nancy Pelosi light on these issues. I think Mark has gotten more and more liberal on fiscal issues. The cap and trade vote proves that he's not a fiscal conservative. I mean, it's the largest tax in American history. It's the largest transfer of political power from the individual to the government in at least 70 years since the New Deal policies. And in our state, a manufacturing, oil-producing, coal-producing, agricultural state, it will wipe us out. We're already at 11% unemployment. We have an $11 billion budget deficit. We will long for those numbers if cap and trade gets past the Senate and is signed into law by President Obama.
Well, and he voted for that in his role as congressman in the 10th Congressional District, right?
He did, yes.
Yeah, and so he has said he was representing his district. He has said he is now opposed to cap and trade because now he's seeking to represent the entire state of Illinois, which is a different constituency.
Well,
what do you say to Mark Kirk? You've heard him say that, right?
I've heard him say it to my face.
So what do you say to Mark in response? Well, folks, we've invited Mark Kirk numerous times to be here. He did grace the set of Public Affairs a number of times when he ran in 2000 in the 10th Congressional seat, both in the primary and the general. And then he came back once or twice, and we haven't seen him on this set in the last 6 years. So he doesn't really do this show because he doesn't like the format. He didn't elaborate on that. But, Congressman Kirk, you're always welcome. We'd love to have you on here. But if we're guessing about what you've said and I've asked, we're only doing it because we can't get you here either individually or with Pat Hughes.
I'd welcome that. I'd love to sit down with Mark and the 3 of us and have a talk about this between now and February 2nd. But on cap and trade, Jeff.
So that's his argument. He's representing a different constituency. Now he's against it. Now he would say he and you are in sync. You're both against cap and trade.
Well, we are not in sync, and there's a path that this issue took for Congressman on his vote. He voted for it, and his first reason was to say that he voted for it to wean us off of foreign oil production. And then I hit him with, well,
he said it was a national security issue.
He
got to
did.
get off foreign oil consumption,
yes,
and the reliance on foreign oil.
But then
or else you're relying on folks that could put you in harm's way if you have a confrontation. You can't access oil.
It's a great thought. The problem with it is Congressman Kirk votes against drilling in Anwar. He votes against drilling off the coast. And when I hit him with that and others hit him with that, he moved his position. His second position, he abandoned that reason.
He abandoned national security.
He abandoned that as a reason to vote for it. And then he moved to the reason that it was in the interests of his district. So I went ahead and I polled his district, and the people in his district don't want cap and trade either. And I've confronted him at the Chicago Tribune editorial board and other places and said, look, you had this issue and this reason to begin with. You've changed the foreign policy issue. Now you've moved to it's in the best interest of your district, but no one in your district wants it either. What's the real reason for why you voted for cap and trade? And he doesn't like being asked about that, and I know why, because his reasons aren't consistent. There is no way.
Did he give you an answer when you asked that question?
No.
That was at the Tribune editorial
It
board?
is. His direct quote was that I liked, that he gave me an answer, but I didn't like it. And my response to that was, it's not that I don't like it, it's that I don't believe it. And the reason that I don't believe it is because of the change in position on the issue. Now, it would be irresponsible for
What would you say? What was the answer that you don't believe?
that he did it for the interest of his district,
constituent.
because
Oh, okay.
he had changed his reason. But you can't vote as a United States congressman, regardless of whether it may or may not be in the interest of your district, for the largest tax in American history, because ultimately what's going to happen is it's going to wipe out your state economically, and that's going to have a negative impact on your district. I think what he did is he tried to find a politically expedient place to land by saying, well, now that I represent you statewide, I will vote against cap and trade. It's not selling across the state, I can tell you that. It certainly doesn't set well with me. I'm a constituent. So I have a hard time believing that if he were in the Senate and cap and trade came across his desk, that he would vote against that bill. It just doesn't have any credibility at this point.
You think he really just believes in cap and trade? He believes, number one, I suppose, would you say he believes in global warming?
I would say that he believes in global warming.
Do you believe there's global warming?
I think that there's global warming, whether or not, to some degree, whether or not it's caused by man or whether or not there is a dilatory impact that it has on our environment that can't be altered, I don't know. I don't think that science is settled. And I think until we go through a series of questions to determine what impact fossil fuel burning has on our environment, we need to not put ourselves at incredible economic disadvantage to places like China and India and others.
So in your view, Congressman Kirk, who's seeking to represent the Republican Party, be the nominee for the U.S. Senate seat, in your view, he believes in global warming and he believes it's due to carbon dioxide, and he believes you need to cut back on the carbon imprint of the United States to fix it, or the carbon imprint of the world?
I believe that he thinks that's true. I think he's tied to the radical environmentalist left in our country.
You think it's a matter of ideology? It's not a matter of political expediency?
It's a matter of both. I suspect that in part there's ideology there, although I don't know what it is.
Environmentalism plays well in the 10th Congressional District. Do you think environmentalism, he thinks, plays well as he runs for the Senate across the state of Illinois in the general election, if he's the nominee?
It does not. It doesn't play well.
Do you think he thinks it does? Is that what he's doing, setting up a run against a Democrat that he thinks he would do more favorably? I'm not saying it does, but is that we're psychoanalyzing Mark Kirk?
That's right. And I don't want.
Again, folks, we're only in this position because Kirk's not here. So if Congressman, you don't like lying down on the couch, you don't like having Berkowitz play psychiatrist, come on Public Affairs. The choice is yours.
And I'm not going to play psychologist or psychiatrist with Mark or with anyone else. But what I will say is that I think he does things based on political expediency. That explains, I don't think that Mark expected that he would have this much of a challenge in the primary. The party, which I think is broken, cleared the field for him. They continue to try to clear the field for him, even when I announced.
Even conservatives. Peter Roskam, he's supporting Mark Kirk, right?
Peter Roskam, Aaron Schock.
But Roskam's a sincere conservative.
He is.
Social, economic, and otherwise, right? You agree?
He is, I agree.
Congressional District? You know Peter Roskam, right?
I know Peter. I don't know him
respect
well.
Peter?
I do. Oh, I respect him. I don't respect his decision to support Mark Kirk,
But
who I think is opposed to Peter's core principles in significant ways.
So why do you think Peter Roskam, Congressman Roskam, is supporting Mark Kirk?
I think it's an establishment thing. I think that the idea is that the national party wants Mark to run because they're under the misguided perception that he's the only person who can beat the Democrat because this is allegedly a blue state. I think that analysis is completely incorrect. I don't think that Mark can put together the coalition.
You think a conservative can win?
I do.
The last time a conservative won that seat was 1998.
That's
right?
correct. That's the coalition that we're going to put back together for the general
Peter
election.
Fitzgerald coalition.
Peter Fitzgerald coalition.
Except Peter, in addition to that coalition, he had $15 million. You got $15 million in your pocket?
I will for the general election. I can assure you of
You'll
that.
have $15 million for the general?
I believe that we'll be able to raise between $15 and $20 million for the general election.
Really?
And here's why this is even different, Jeff, than 1998. It's 2010.
Of course, Peter was self-funding.
He was, but
That's why the party, another reason why the party didn't mind him so much. They didn't embrace him. Certainly the state party didn't.
sure. I think a conservative can win statewide now more than ever. And the reason is, first of all, you have to have the base in place. We learned that with John McCain. We learned that with Judy Bar-Topinka. If the base is not in place, you're not going to get enough vote to win the election. I think the base is going to be gone for Congressman Kirk in the general. I talk to people every day that say—
Where are they going? There's nowhere to go. I mean,
They're
say
gonna
if the
sta-
alternative
they're
is Alexi Janulius, they're not voting for Alexi, are they?
They're going to stay home. They're not going to be energized. And
You
they're
think
not
maybe
gonna
they
get
would
out.
vote for David Hoffman?
I doubt it.
Would they vote for Cheryl Jackson?
No, I doubt it.
Jacob Meister?
I doubt it.
So they're just going to stay home.
I think so. That's what people tell me. There are people that say they will sit it out because they're so—
They'll vote, but they're just going to skip the Senate race, right?
They'll skip the Senate race. There are people that are so upset with Congressman Kirk's—
Is it all about
record.
cap and trade?
I think cap and trade is the most important issue of this primary because of the devastating impact economically it would have in our state in one of the most difficult economic times in our history. But it also
Gun
caused—
control? Is that a problem?
It is. It caused people to look—
What's the difference between you and Mark Kirk on guns?
Well, he gets an F from the NRA because he's in favor of radical restrictions on gun rights, and I don't feel the same way that he does.
Do you believe in any gun control?
I believe in some background checks. I believe
Background checks to find what?
to determine if someone is, for example, a convicted violent felon.
And if they are, you would
Then
say
I
that person should
would say that person
should
should own a gun, and I think that
What
we
if
need—
they're a bit nutty? Is that possibly an issue as well?
It's a more difficult issue because a bit nutty has to be defined, and it's up to some folks to
No,
determine.
say they had been committed at some point for psychiatric
I
problems.
think under
Would
that,
qualify?
I think that would qualify.
Okay. So you wouldn't object
No.
to those kinds of tests to decide if somebody should have the right to own a gun?
I think
In that sense, you believe in gun control, right?
in that sense, I believe in gun control, but I don't believe in gun bans. I think the gun ban
Any
in
gun
Chicago—
bans?
I think
Machine guns, they're currently banned. Do you think people should be allowed to own a machine gun?
I don't have a problem with law-abiding citizens owning.
Machine guns?
Hold on, let me finish. With law-abiding citizens owning guns that have a direct correlation to something that is legitimate in their daily lives, and so whatever that weapon is, I think that's something they can own. So I was against the assault. I'm against the assault weapons ban. I'm for concealed carry. I think it's important we have concealed carry laws in this state, 40 out of 50. On the machine gun issue, I think that the way the law is now, I'm fine with for right now.
You mean because right now the law is nobody can own a machine gun?
I'm fine with that for now.
You're fine, okay, with that. But assault weapons, you think maybe somebody should be allowed to own an assault weapon?
Yeah, I'm actually—
They're currently allowed to. There was a federal ban, it's lapsed. People can own assault weapons throughout the country.
I actually shot a weapon that
Plus there's a state ban.
that would have been banned by the assault weapons ban this morning. I was with a group of gun owners who practiced incredible safety, incredible responsibility, and the weapons that we were using to shoot for sport were under control, and they would be banned. And it seems
What do you mean
absurd
under
to me.
control?
You know, there was safety precautions under use. People were shown.
What would make them an assault weapon? Are they semi-automatic?
They're semi-automatic. Yeah,
And
so
what does that mean?
AK-47, you can shoot more rounds.
Isn't that what the Viet Cong would use and get from Russia?
It may be. Yeah.
I think that was the gun of choice for the Viet Cong
I have
back in the Vietnam War.
I have
And
no
you think
problem with people
doing
being
hunting,
homeless.
they really need an AK-47?
They tell me that they do, and I
Like
believe
what,
them.
to get deer or what?
Yeah, if you shoot a
Do
deer,
you think that's a fair fight between an AK-47 and the deer?
it
It seems unfair. Doesn't it seem innately unfair?
It seems like the wrong.
I'm not saying gun laws should. I'm not saying the Second
seems like
Amendment
they're
should
wrong.
just be about fairness to deer.
Right.
But seriously, if you're a big guy and you're a big gun, a big hunter, do you really need an AK-47 to get a deer?
I talked to someone about this today who's been hunting his whole life, and what he said was when he uses the semi-automatic weapon to shoot a deer, if he hits it the first time and he can't, and it's getting out of the way, he can shoot it again a second time very, very quickly. I don't have a problem with that, to be quite honest.
But you need an assault weapon. You don't.
didn't say you need- I
Is there
didn't say you needed
something
one.
less? Because you understand that some of these guns are used for improper purposes.
And they will continue to be, because there will be enough illegal ones on the street for that to happen. Gun bans do not stop crime. All they do is stop law-abiding citizens from having guns.
Well, let's go back to basic economics.
Sure.
You're a smart guy. You went to Marquette, right?
I did.
You got a
and
degree,
DePaul.
You got a degree in accounting.
I did.
You went to DePaul and got a law degree.
I did.
You met the love of your wife, the love of your life there, your wife.
I
right?
did. Best thing that ever happened to me.
All right. And
Other than being on this show. That's another great thing I'm enjoying a lot.
so so you met her at DePaul, Sue?
Susan, yes.
Susan.
Sue, yeah.
Okay. And you went then to good law firms.
I did.
Did you practice in-house first?
No, I practiced private.
Did you ever practice on, was it Ocean Realty?
Ocean Atlantic is a series of entities that I've done legal work for and that I do management consulting for.
Okay. But you practiced at Tressler Soderstrom, right?
I did. That was my first law firm. Tressler
Good law
Soderstrom.
firm.
Very good
Big
law
law
firm.
firm.
Great people.
Then Gardner Carden, right?
Another great law firm, another great people.
Now Drinker Biddle. That name has changed. It's
Correct.
part of Drinker Biddle.
That's
but
right.
At the time, well, I don't know when you were there, but when the time it merged, it was probably about 200 attorneys here in Chicago.
Yeah, when I was at Gardner Carden, it was almost 300. There was a D.C. office, there was a Chicago office. I practiced complex commercial litigation, represented a lot of real estate businesses, a lot of large companies. It was a great time in my life, building up my practice, learning a lot of how business operates.
My point is you're a smart guy.
Hey.
You know some basic economics, right?
I do, yes.
You know that, things like the demand curve slope down to the right. In other words, at higher prices, people demand less. At lower prices, they demand more.
I understand
You agree with that?
Absolutely.
If you raise the price to somebody of doing something, they do it a little less. You agree with that?
I do.
So if we raise the price to people to getting an assault weapon, even though you're a crook, even though you're not going to follow the law, just, the black letter of the law, there may be some concerns. You may want to get a different gun, so if you're caught, they can't get you on a gun violation, put you in jail for 5 years.
But that's an economic analysis, Jeff, and
No,
you have to bring in the.
It's an economic analysis of crooks. People who've gotten Nobel Prize awards did it for doing that very analysis in more detail than I have done it. Gary Becker has done that. It's called analysis of illegitimate activities, putting it nicely.
Sure.
Or crooks, corruption. The point is, they've shown that criminals like individuals react to penalties. And when you raise penalties, I'm not saying they never do it, but they do it less. My point to you is, would you just acknowledge if you ban assault weapons, you may have some deleterious things as a consequence. So I can see that you don't want to do, law of unintended consequences. But you raise the cost a bit, you may deter some criminals from possessing assault weapons. You understand?
I do, but
you would concede that.
No, because
You wouldn't.
it's a balancing between what you're going to get on one end and what you're going to get on the other, and the restrictions that happen to law-abiding citizens who have constitutional rights are outweighed, in my view, in that context.
Right. Another difference between you and Congressman Kirk would be the issue of gay rights, right?
I think that we have a differing opinion on a marriage amendment. I'm in favor
Same-sex
of
marriage. You would be opposed to same-sex marriage.
I'm opposed to
You
same-sex
think marriage is between
one man and one woman, yes.
Kirk says no. Would he favor same-sex marriage? Or just civil unions?
I think that he would. I'm not sure how he's come out on that particularly. I do know that he opposes a marriage amendment, and I think that's a signal to someone who may favor same-sex marriage. I'm in favor of a marriage amendment, and the reason that I am is because state courts like...
You're in favor of a marriage amendment?
In favor of a marriage amendment. Because
a constitutional
amendment,
yes.
That says? The marriage is between one man and one woman. And the reason that I do is because state Supreme Courts in Iowa and in California have stricken the laws between one man and one woman, marriage laws, under the Equal Protection Clause of their constitutions. The Equal Protection Clause of the United States Constitution or the state constitution of Iowa or California does not ban the right of the people to make marriage between one man and one woman. And as a consequence, because we can't...
That's important to you. Marriage be between a man and a woman.
It's important to me, yes.
And you think the Constitution should make that clear so that judges don't somehow think the Constitution in some cases requires them to rule that people of the same sex should be allowed to marry in the United States.
I didn't always think that, because I always thought that we wouldn't get to the point where Supreme Courts would be interpreting our Equal Protection Clause.
State Supreme Courts.
State Supreme Courts, and potentially the United States Supreme Court.
So you think we're there now, we don't want to spend too much more time on this.
Sure.
Since we're there now, you favor an amendment that makes clear in the United States marriage should be between a man and a woman.
That's what I believe, yes.
You don't think Kirk agrees with you on that?
I do not.
Okay. and he's a big environmentalist. You believe in environmentalism?
I do, but I think that.
But you got to look at costs and benefits.
Absolutely, I think
so. On something like cap and trade, cap and tax, however you want to call it, you think it's a clear case. There may be some potential benefits, but the costs far outweigh the benefits.
There's no potential benefit because China and India aren't going to sign on, and so any benefit that we'd have, presumed benefit we'd have, would not be there with cap and trade. I think that conservatives get a bad rap on the environment. I'm an environmentalist in the sense that I want us to have a clean and good environment, but we have to balance that with our economic viability. The radical environmentalists, who I think are the people that support Congressman Kirk in many respects, people like the Sierra Club and others, don't view it that way. It's an all or nothing proposition.
Come back to social issues, but going over to national security.
Sure.
You differed from Kirk. You weren't in Congress, he was, but at the time this surge came up, that is, the Bush administration George W. Bush wanted a surge in Iraq. Congressman Kirk, who had been very strong on the military, he's a Naval Reserve officer, reservist. He voted no, right?
He did.
He didn't think we should have a surge in Iraq.
He did not think we should
You
have a surge.
thought we should have a surge.
I thought we should have a surge.
You said so at the time.
I said so.
You say so now.
I say so now, and here's the thing.
And what does Kirk say is why has he explained to you and others why it was he was opposed to a surge?
No, he's never explained it. I've tried to
You
get
think
him
it was
to explain it.
political?
Absolutely.
That he was in the 10th congressional district?
Absolutely.
A lot of heat, a lot of Democrats,
Absolutely. I think
majority
it was
Democratic.
Absolutely.
Political expediency is what you would say?
I do think so, yeah.
What does Kirk say? We don't know. He's not here. We'd like to know, but there's only so much psychoanalysis I can do. I'm good. Not that good. All right, so we don't know. The Tribune didn't ask him.
Oh, he did not ask
at the editorial board.
No, they did not.
They haven't decided yet who they're endorsing.
They have not.
And those folks didn't think it was important enough to ask. I think that says something about the Tribune endorsement, whichever way it goes. I would have asked. I mean, how long were you there? An hour?
We were there for an hour. We talked about Afghanistan,
Just
but not
you
about Iraq
and Kirk and Arrington. 3 people an hour, and they didn't ask about the surge. Shame on you. Okay? Really. I mean, I make mistakes. Maybe I'm making a mistake on this show. But that is such a key issue. It is journalistic malpractice not to ask. Unless you knew. But how would you know? Who knows?
And a lot of people, as I travel the state, don't know that. And when they find that out, they are stunned because the congressman, and he is a patriot, and I say it all the time, for serving in our military, and he should be honored for that. But people, because of that, don't know that he voted against the surge and did it for probably political reasons. And now he talks about the Afghanistan surge, but there's really
He's in favor of the Afghanistan
Sure, but there's no
surge.
credibility.
You're in favor of the
I am, but there's no
credibility.
credibility.
There is not any daylight between you and Congressman Kirk on Afghanistan.
None that I can see, although he did say in the editorial board that he was happy with the president's decision to send 30,000 troops. I think we should have sent 44,000 because that's the low end of what General McChrystal had asked for.
But should you always do what the general wants? I mean,
in this
Barack
context,
Obama's
no,
the commander
not
in
always,
chief.
not always. But
you understand, the Constitution says, Obama, you're commander in chief.
He is the commander in chief, but
he's not there to rubber stamp things.
Hold on. In this circumstance, given what just happened in Iraq 18 months prior, given the incredible success of the Iraq surge, given the fact that General Petraeus was involved in this decision and that decision, under this circumstance, this particular circumstance, we should have given the general exactly what he wanted. Now, the reason that the president didn't is that he wanted to, split half the loaf. He wanted to appease his left-wing base, which is why he put a timetable on it. And then he wanted to give less troops.
Let me play devil's advocate.
Sure.
Is the front shifting from Iraq and Afghanistan, maybe to Pakistan, maybe to Somalia, maybe to Yemen? In other words, folks, the terrorists are a little broader.
They're broad.
As Don Rumsfeld said, and you got to remember this, the enemy has a brain. We're not sure if we have a brain sometimes, but the enemy has a brain. And so if you put your resources here, you know what? The enemy's going to shift the front.
They are, but Afghanistan is a particular
I'm
issue.
saying Afghanistan is not important, but Yemen's important, right?
It is. But
Somalia is important.
It is. But when I speak to
maybe the president was saying we need those 15,000 troops if we have to spread them around.
You're a lot more optimistic person than I am on that front.
I'm just being objective.
Sure, I don't think that's what the president was saying. Okay. Because here's the thing on Pakistan and vis-a-vis Afghanistan. Pakistan's nuclear power. If Afghanistan fails or falters, the risk of a loose nuke getting out of there is the existential threat of our time right now.
Pakistan's important. I'm not saying it isn't.
Extraordinarily, yes.
All right. But you would agree that Somalia and Yemen are important and maybe the next fronts, right?
They potentially, given what happened with
Congressman Kirk might say that too.
Sure, he might.
We don't know. He's not here.
He's not.
Just not here. No. Okay. We can only guess. One thing we do know, Kirk very opposed to Obamacare, very articulate spokesperson against that plan. You were very much against that.
Yeah.
You and
Where
Kirk.
was Congressman
You and
Kirk?
Kirk can agree on opposing
Where
Obamacare.
Where was Congressman Kirk for the last 10 years as our healthcare costs have escalated, since the Clinton administration has been talking about making healthcare more of a governmental issue, governmental control issue. Where has the congressman been on this issue? I know that he proposed a bill when he was running for United States Senate, but he's had 10 years in Congress to propose something, and there are things that can be done.
Where was George W. Bush? I mean, he was president.
I'm not running
Should you expect more from Mark Kirk than George W. Bush? One guy was president, the other guy was a congressman.
Well, I expect Congressman Kirk to say that if he's a leader on an issue, that he should have been out in front of it. Now, another thing is, the cap and trade vote gave the Obama administration political cover to pass health care, 220 to 215. Without cap and trade, there would have been no health care. In my view, and the view of others that share it, not just in Illinois, but across this country, Kirk's vote for cap and trade is a vote for health care. Because without health care passing, Obama would not have had the political capital.
Kirk's an enabler of
He's an enabler of the Obama administration and their health care plan by voting for cap and trade. There's no question.
Now, Kirk voted for the bailout as proposed by George W. Bush, the $700 billion financial sector bailout.
Yes.
You would have voted no if you were there?
I was opposed to the bailouts.
Oh, that's the difference.
That's the difference.
Folks, I hope you're keeping that scorecard. We're pointing out some things same, some different. You want to keep track, right? All right.
Now, I was opposed, real quick.
We only got a few minutes left, so
Okay,
we're going to
sorry.
continue to speak as the credits roll. I may be saying this early, but I just want to remind folks, I very much want to thank our guest, Patrick Hughes, who's running for the U.S. Senate. He's running in the Republican primary. You will get a chance to vote in that race on February 2nd, and you're going to have multiple choices. You're going to go with Congressman Mark Kirk, you're going to go with John Arrington, you're going to go with Pat Hughes or one of the others. Thank you so much for coming, Patrick Hughes.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it.
All right. We want to point out Patrick Hughes is here. Kirk, I don't know where the hell he is. He isn't here, okay? Excuse my language, but I mean, seriously, he was here in 2000, he was here in 2001, 2003. We'd be fair. If he were here, we'd be absolutely fair. So that's how we are, tough but fair on everybody. But we want to point out when somebody comes on like Patrick Hughes and subjects himself to some tough questions, we appreciate it.
You're welcome.
More importantly, we, our voters, our viewers, your potential voters in Rockford, in Aurora, in Chicago, in the Chicago metro suburbs, sometimes around the state of Illinois, they appreciate it. This is a matter of your showing respect for them. And if Congressman Mark Kirk's disrespecting anybody, it's not me, it's not you, it's the voters of Illinois. They want to know these answers, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, one thing on abortion. That's another big issue between you two.
I'm pro-life, and he is for partial birth abortion. It could not be a bigger.
Yeah. What exceptions? You would allow a woman to have an abortion if her life were at issue?
If her life were an issue, I would allow it, absolutely.
What else? Rape and incest?
Toughest decision in my life, but no.
No exceptions for those?
No exceptions for those.
All right. So, and you would like to see Roe v. Wade overturned?
I would. It's one of the worst constitutional law decisions ever. The decision should be left.
Kirk's happy with Roe v. Wade?
He's probably ecstatic with it.
Kirk's a pro-choicer?
He's 100% an ARAL pro-choicer. Federal funding, partial birth abortion.
And he voted, he did not support the ban on partial birth abortion that passed the Congress?
He did not.
Now, it didn't allow an exception for the health of the mother. Most people would think the Supreme Court would require that. They did not take that case. You would not allow an exception for the health of the mother on partial birth?
Because it's too broad of a term, health, and it's been interpreted in a way that allows the doctor to make any decision with respect to that procedure. So no.
You're a strong supporter of Israel?
I am.
So is Kirk. You're very similar in that way.
He should have supported the
You would
Iraq surge.
both. You would both support a ban on gasoline imports by Iran.
I would, yes.
Yeah. So he's proposed that 4 years ago. You and he agree. Would you go further and talk about taking out the nuclear capability of Iran if the sanctions don't work?
It's got to be on the table.
You would consider. Should Israel do that or the United States?
It's got to be on the table for both Israel and the United States. And if God forbid we get there, we'll have to take a look.
You think they can do that? People have said you can't. They've disguised that. They've dispersed it. It may not be physically possible to take out the nuclear capability of Iran at this point.
Well, that may be true. I hope it's not, but it may be true.
All right. Would you close Gitmo?
No.
Kirk wouldn't close Gitmo. So
Well,
you're in agreement on that,
He
right?
technically voted to close it, but I am opposed to